Hi guys, welcome back to another exciting video of Top Movies Recap. I'm going to show you a science fiction action flick today titled Tomorrow War. With 3 minutes of extra time remaining in the 2022 World Cup soccer match, the Brazilian player has a one-shot chance. Unexpectedly, a troop of armed soldiers from 2051 come on the soccer pitch in a burst of light and smoke, and say that 30 years into the future, all Brazilian fans in the stands and in front of the television are waiting for the result. The planet Earth is invaded by an alien race known as the WHITESPIKEs, which are voracious and brutal creatures whose sole motivation is to destroy all life on the planet in order to balance the scales. In response, future soldiers have traveled to ask the present planet for assistance, and nations work together to save humanity by building time travel facilities and recruiting soldiers to fight. The next conflict, unfortunately, many batches of military forces have been sent into the future for duty, but the majority of them died in battle and only a few managed to return. As a result, a global draft begins and groups of ordinary men and veterans are reluctantly recruited for the mission. Among those reluctantly recruited is Dan, an Iraq War veteran. Dan reports to the military base where he is fitted with a tracking device that will assist him in returning if he is still alive. Dan returns home to bid farewell to his beloved daughter and wife before leaving for the mission shortly after. Dan is placed in with a group of fellow recruits for basic training because most of the recruits are civilians who cannot handle guns. Later, Dan understands that the journey is hopeless. They travel to the future using jump link technology, which is still in beta mode due to this, before confronting the threatening creatures, but the majority of the people do not survive the drop high above the city Dan, and some lucky ones escape death by landing in a high-rise rooftop swimming pool there. The survivors are contacted by Colonel, a science whiz and a leading officer of the resistance, who sees the future city reduced to flaming rubbles with collapsed buildings, the wreckage of helicopters, and dead scattered all over the area. Since the authorities have decided to explode, the Colonel designates Dan as the temporary captain, as he has previously led operations in the Iraq War. The animals have engulfed the entire city. Since Dan has fought and survived, his unit is dispatched to rescue a nearby lab before the sterilization. The lab scientists produced a toxin that is believed to be capable of wiping out WHITESPIKE's. Prior forces sent are caught by the WHITESPIKEs. When they arrive at their goal, they discover the trapped troops and scientists have all died, and innumerable spikes on the wall stare at them as they enter the lab. In truth, there are spiky bullets fired by the WHITESPIKE's tentacles. The term WHITESPIKE comes from its ashy appearance and spiky projectiles, as no one survived the last rescue. Just as Dan's troop obtains everything they need and starts to depart, a WHITESPIKE appears and murders a female soldier, prompting the Colonel to order Dan to flee with the studied data and toxin sample. Dan instructs his soldiers to shoot at the hideous and terrifying alien beings, but they are unsuccessful, so he orders them to retreat on their way out. To secure the unit's safety, the WHITESPIKEs pursue them and consume a few troops. Dan decides to cover them by going last. A few seconds later, Dan is assaulted by a rampaging WHITESPIKE after shooting all of his guns. Dan takes an axe from the fire hydrant cabinet for melee battle, but despite Dan's best efforts, the cruel tentacle WHITESPIKE continues to gain the upper hand when he is on the verge of death. Charlie and Dorian return to save him. Charlie fires a volley of shots at the monster. The alien species falls to the ground, defeating the WHITESPIKE. Dan's unit finally leaves the lab. Unfortunately, more of these horrifying monsters clamoring to eat them alive are waiting outside the lab in desperation. Everyone sprints to the evacuation point at the pickup point. Their car is overturned and its driver devoured by the monsters right at the pickup point. The death toll is rising as they try to escape by the skin of their teeth, but the horde of WHITESPIKEs is just too overwhelming. When the safe zone is within reach, some wounded soldiers sacrifice themselves to tackle the beasts so that the rest can safely leave with the toxin. Just as Dan steps into the safe zone, a deafening explosion occurs, knocking him out. They must carry out the following strategy. Colonel finds a few female WHITESPIKEs, who breed the new baby WHITESPIKEs. She tests the reagent in the WHITESPIKE's lair, but only male WHITESPIKEs die, while females are unaffected. Colonel decides to catch one female WHITESPIKE for further research based on her plant. Dan's crew is dispatched to tranquilize and confine the female monster, then fly it back to the lair by helicopter. They follow the instructions step by step. Once the female WHITESPIKE loses consciousness, the soldiers shoot chains into her body and pull her out of the cave. However, despite the efforts of a dozen strong men, the monster does not move an inch. Suddenly, the female WHITESPIKE rushes out of its cave with uproar and prowls on the soldiers without mercy, killing many soldiers in an instant. Colonel descends to the cave to command the battle, but one careless mistake has caught her in the trap of the WHITESPIKE's tentacle. Dan jumps into the hole right away to deal with the WHITESPIKE's tentacle. And when the beast's movement is restricted and its strength deteriorates, he directs the rest to finally pull it out. The unit manages to capture it and load it onto the helicopter. But the earlier gunfire has enraged thousands of WHITESPIKEs, and a helicopter that has just taken off is pulled down by the beasts and explodes on the spot. Dan and Colonel flee in a Humvee, firing machine guns at the hordes of monsters on top of the vehicle. Their destination is a military base built on the sea. Colonel and her colleagues devise a scientific technique to kill the female WHITESPIKE, but any prospect of actually wiping out the enemy is dashed when an army of WHITESPIKEs invades the base to rescue the trapped one under attack. Dan and Colonel rush to the tarmac while fighting their way out of the base, which is ready to collapse. Today is Dan's last day, and he will time travel back shortly when time is so short. Colonel is shot by a spiky bullet with only 5 minutes left before his departure. Dan quickly brings Colonel up and prepares to leave when the once-caged female WHITESPIKE appears in front of them to seize Colonel and throw her into the sea to save his daughter. Dan holds on to her hand with all of his might and strength, but Colonel lets go of his hand after giving him the toxin solution stricken by grief. Dan leaps into the sea at the same time. The space tunnel opens and Dan, along with Charlie and Dorian, is taken back. To Dan's surprise, he submits the toxic solution to authorities for mass manufacture and then sends them into the future to eliminate the WHITESPIKEs. Nothing can be sent to the future because the other end's jump link technology is no longer available. In other words, humans in 30 years hence are vanquished and doomed. Dan arrives home with a sad heart and his wife breaks down in tears of pleasure at his return. However, Dan is upset because he is missing his daughter that night. Dan tells his wife about his experiences during the week of duty and his determination to save their daughter. According to Dan, the WHITESPIKEs first land on a Russian snow mountain in the year 2048, but no photo of a spaceship is captured by satellite in that year, implying that the alien monster may have arrived on Earth much earlier than 2048. Dan conducts his inquiry and seeks assistance from Charlie and Dorian, realizing that Charlie has only a few months to live owing to her terminal cancer. Charlie hands Dan a spiky bullet that he has extracted from a future battlefield. They find volcanic ash from the spike, indicating that the WHITESPIKEs arrived on Earth by spaceship hundreds of years ago, as their arrival coincides with a volcanic eruption in northern Russia. They are buried deep underground by volcanic ash, and snow centuries later, as global warming has thawed the ice glaciers in northern Russia, releasing the WHITESPIKEs from their shackles. Dan asks the Russian government for permission to destroy the WHITESPIKEs. The country refuses to support such a cause because no tangible evidence is presented and political relations between Russia and the United States are strained. When Dan's estranged father, grandpa, and expialate learns about the trip to save his granddaughter, he turns to his estranged father, grandpa, for assistance. He agrees immediately quickly, and with the help of a female time traveler soldier, Dan manages to mass-produce the toxic solution. She wholeheartedly supports the push and offers bombs for the battle, so Dan organizes his special force with Grandpa, Charlie, Dorian, and a few surviving future troops. Grandpa flies his private jet all the way to the Academy of Sciences glacier on Komsomolets Island, dodging the Russian satellite system where Dan determines the location of the alien spaceship based on changes in the magnetic field and heat source. They then blast open the ice and find a cave in which the spacecraft resides. While Grandpa and Dorian stand guard outside the ship, Dan cuts through the spacecraft and walks in with Charlie. Dan discovers what appears to be an extraterrestrial's body as well as a WHITESPIKE incubator, revealing that WHITESPIKEs are invading alien weapons designed to kill another planet. Dan and Charlie inject WHITESPIKEs with toxin reagent while they are still in eggs with one shot. Each of the monsters turns into a pool of blood after struggling for a while before giving the other WHITESPIKEs a dose. The WHITESPIKEs become irritated and rush out of the containers as the situation becomes more complicated. After Dan leaves, Charlie requests to be left alone with the creatures, so he blows up the spacecraft with the bombs he has, enlisting the help of Grandpa and Dorian. Dan quickly discovers that the blast kills all WHITESPIKEs, but one in order to prevent this WHITESPIKE from producing further progeny. Dan and Grandpa decide to go hunting for it and kill it as soon as possible. They track it all the way and finally succeed in sandwiching the monster. The beast recoils as they riddle the WHITESPIKE with countless bullets from its front and back unexpectedly. A white mist gathers around the WHITESPIKE and mysteriously, it vanishes in the mist for better defense. Dan and Grandpa stand back to back out of thin air. The monster emerges from the white fog, disassembling the two men's formation in the blink of an eye. As the WHITESPIKE rushes over to him, Dan gets struck down by a spiky bullet. Dan takes the bullet from his thigh and stabs it into the beast's eye. Shortly after, Grandpa uses a pickaxe to slash the beast's other eye. The insanely blind WHITESPIKE kicks Grandpa away and fires spikes everywhere. Dan takes advantage of the opportunity to inject a toxin into the monster's claw, but the WHITESPIKE, to his astonishment, chews off its own claw as a final resort to survive. Dan climbs to the cliff's edge, planning to use himself as bait to entice the enemy, but Grandpa slices his own palm to use his own blood to entice the WHITESPIKE. Dan is empowered by Grandpa's sacrificed effort to ride on the WHITESPIKE and cut through its neck before injecting a lethal venom into its brain without more ado. In the closing scene, Dan kicks the very last WHITESPIKE off the cliff. Dan and Grandpa reconnect with the family, and Dan's daughter hugs him. He feels so accomplished that he has done the right thing. This is Daniel. We hope you enjoyed our today's video. If you did like this video, smash that like button and subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with the latest and interesting videos.